Hey there, KIPPsters. Welcome back to science class. We have a fun-filled activity day for you today. Let's go ahead and jump into our aim. Our aim for today. KIPPsters will be able to collect and record information to measure the length of an object using a ruler and/or a meter stick. Today's very hands-on. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we use meter sticks for and how we use them. But before we get there, I want you to think about this. If you were to explain to me, Mr. Wirtz, how tall you were, how would you say it? Go ahead and think about this for 20 seconds. How would you tell me how tall you were? What does that sound like? Time's up. KIPPsters, if I were to tell you how tall I was, I would say it like this. I'm 6 feet and 3 inches tall. I used the word feet and inches. I wonder why I didn't use the word meters, or tables tall, or chairs tall, or pencils tall. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at this. Now, in the world of science, we all need to measure using the same units. And if you take a look at this map, there are only 3 countries that don't use the same units as everyone else in the world. And those countries are in pink: the United States, Liberia, and Burma. These countries use their own form of measuring. But take a look at how many green countries there are. Almost the whole entire world uses the same type of measurements to communicate. So it's very important in science class that we use those same units, and we call that the metric system. A meter stick or ruler. A meter stick is used to measure the length and width of objects. We measure this in meters, or sometimes we just use the letter M. Go ahead and pause this video and write down the definition of meter stick. Now on this meter stick, you can notice that there are really small lines, there are some big lines, and there are even numbers going down the middle of the meter stick. That's because on a meter stick, there are different units. And units describe the size of measurements. As you can see on the left, millimeters are the smallest units, then centimeters, decimeters, meters, and then kilometers. Let's take a closer look at what each one means. Units of measure, the millimeter. As you can see in this picture, 1 millimeter, if you follow the blue arrow down, is one of those little tiny marks. That represents 1 millimeter. And millimeter is the smallest unit of measurement on a meter stick. Next is the centimeter, or we can just use cm. Go ahead and take a look at the red arrows on the picture. We can see that from the number 9 all the way to the number 10, that is 1 whole centimeter. There are 10 millimeters, those little baby marks, in 1 centimeter. So in between 9 and 10, there are 10 little tiny marks. Next is the decimeter, or dm. There are 10 centimeters in 1 decimeter. Let's take a look at those yellow arrows down at the bottom. You'll notice that we start at 0. We pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we stop at 10. There are 10 centimeters in 1 decimeter. Now, when we look at this one stick, the meter stick all the way across, that is the length of 1 meter. And if you notice, the numbers in the middle of the meter stick go all the way from 1 to 99. That means there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Pretty cool. Now, when we want to measure things that are really far away, instead of using those little baby marks or even just the meter sticks, we use something called kilometers or kilometers, but you can just use the letters km. There are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So if we were to take 1,000 meter sticks and line them up, that would equal 1 kilometer. So before we move on, let's talk about what measurement unit we would use to measure each one of these. We have an apple, we have the distance from Dallas to Houston, we have a penny, length of the classroom, and a pencil. Let's think for about 20 seconds on what unit we would use to measure each one of these lengths. Go ahead and pause this video and share your answers out loud with the class. Now let's practice actually measuring with a meter stick. Let's take a look at this picture. Here we have a picture of what is a part of a meter stick. Go ahead and measure how long that black line is. I want you to think about this for about 7 seconds. If you're thinking that the black line is about 4 centimeters long, you are correct. Notice that the black line starts all the way on the left at 0, and the very end ends right over 4 centimeters. Let's try it again. This time take about 5 seconds to figure out how long this black line is. If you're thinking 1 centimeter, you are correct. Remember, the black line starts at 0 and ends at 1. Let's try one more, except this time you only get 3 seconds. Hurry up. 3 seconds are up. If you were thinking that this line was 2 centimeters, you are correct. The line starts at 0 and ends all the way at the 2 centimeter mark. Now things are going to get a little bit more difficult, so make sure you pay attention so that you can rock this exit ticket. We need to learn how we count in between centimeters, because sometimes objects don't always line up. So we know that there are 10 little tiny marks in between the centimeters. Let's go ahead and count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Interesting. Now, when we want to count using measurements, we're going to do the same thing, counting from 1 to 10. But we're going to put a 0 in front of it. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. And do we do 0.10? No, we just say 1. Okay? Now, after 1 centimeter, we continue to do the same thing, but instead of saying 0 point something, we say 1 point something. So going from 1, we say 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9. Now, do we say 1.10? No, we just say 2 centimeters. So let's try this again. Remember to count in between the lines. Count those little small tiny marks. Let's think about this for 10 seconds. How long does this line measure? If you guessed 4.3 centimeters, you are correct. Let's try it again. Except this time, let's think about it for only 8 seconds. Go ahead. If you guessed 1.5 centimeters, you are correct. One more example. This is tricky. Make sure you pay attention. You have 8 seconds. KIPPsters, if you guessed 0.7 centimeters, you are correct. Remember, we don't have a 1.7 or a 2.7 because we haven't passed those centimeters yet. We're still in between 0 and 1. Next up, go ahead and take a look at the blog. We're going to start activity 1. In this activity, we'll use hands-on meter sticks in order to find the length of different objects.